The market in Karawaru was always alive on Saturday mornings. Vendors shouting prices, radios buzzing with foro, the smell of fried pastéis mixing with ripe fruit. Among the noise, no one noticed the baby at first. She had been placed carefully on a folded sack near a pyramid of mangoes, wrapped in a faded cotton cloth with blue flowers. Strangely, she didn't cry. Her hazel-green eyes, flecked with gold, simply watched the world as if waiting for someone to notice. It was Dona Zefina, who had sold mangoes in that spot for more than 30 years, who first leaned down. She knew every family, every child who played around the stalls, but she had never seen this one. Beneath the baby's head, she found a crumpled piece of notebook paper. Only one word was legible: pardon. Forgive me. The news spread through the market like spilled sugar. A circle formed. Shoppers, vendors, curious children. Speculation rose quickly. A young mother too poor to keep her, a secret no one would admit, a decision made out of despair. The baby's calm gave way to small whimpers, and a woman nearby covered her with a shawl that smelled faintly of fried dough. When the municipal guards arrived, people stepped back. Notes were taken, questions asked, but no answers came. The infant was carried away, sunlight catching her eyes one last time. Someone whispered, "Those are eyes that will find their way." At the clinic, nurses checked her, healthy, hungry, strong. A bottle of warm milk quieted her cries, and she slept deeply, mouth slightly open. Later that day, she was moved to a small shelter called São Vicente, painted pale yellow, where volunteers cared for children without families. They gave her clean clothes, photographed her, and noted the unusual color of her eyes. On the local radio, she became a menina da feira, the girl from the market. Listeners paused while cooking beans or hanging laundry, their hearts tightening at the story. But no family came forward. In the same city lived Ana and Miguel, a couple who had been waiting for years. Ana, a schoolteacher, had long dreamed of a daughter's laugh filling their apartment. Miguel, who repaired radios and fans, carried patience like a second skin. They had tried everything: medicines, prayers, late-night talks. Still, their home remained silent. Ana first heard about the baby from a colleague who mentioned the story from the radio. That night, she couldn't stop imagining the child's eyes, so different and yet so full of possibility. She told Miguel, and though cautious, he agreed. They had to at least visit the shelter. When they arrived, nervous and hopeful, a social worker explained the long process of adoption. Forms, checks, waiting periods. "Nothing is guaranteed," she said kindly. But then she brought the baby into the room. Ana held her first. The baby blinked, calm and curious, as if studying the woman who cradled her. For a moment, Ana forgot the rules and the paperwork. She only saw a fragile life that felt, somehow, meant to cross her path. Miguel leaned closer, and the baby's tiny fingers closed around his thumb. That was enough. He whispered, "Luiza." The name seemed to appear from nowhere, yet felt completely right. "Luiza," Ana repeated softly, testing the sound. The baby didn't cry. She simply stared back with eyes that seemed older than her few months of life, eyes that carried mysteries still hidden in silence. But outside that room, other stories remained. Stories of people who remembered, who avoided, who carried secrets. And one day, those secrets would find their way back. Would you have chosen the same name for her? And what do you imagine the note really said beyond pardon? Share your thoughts below. If this beginning touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and like. Your support helps bring more stories like this to life. Luiza's childhood was simple, marked more by affection than by possessions. Ana and Miguel's modest apartment in Karawaru had peeling walls and a fridge that hummed too loudly. But it also had laughter, books stacked by the bed, and the warm smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen each morning. From the moment the adoption papers were finalized, she was theirs, not just in law but in every heartbeat. Ana loved to braid Luiza's hair before school, slipping colorful ribbons into the strands. Miguel taught her how to ride a bike in the cracked courtyard behind their building. She fell and scraped her knees more times than she could count, but he was always there to lift her back up, steadying her with gentle patience. Again, feel her. Don't give up. And she never did. Still, questions lingered. Children at school sometimes asked why her eyes were different, lighter than most around her. Some whispered, some teased. Luiza would run home in tears, and Anna would gather her close. "Your eyes are beautiful," she whispered. "They're a gift. They remind us that you are unique." But deep inside, Luiza wondered what story those eyes carried, what truth they hid. On birthdays, Anna baked cakes that leaned slightly to one side, but tasted of love in every bite. They couldn't afford expensive gifts, but Miguel once found an old violin at a flea market, polished it, and gave it to Luiza with shining eyes. The first notes she played were squeaky, uncertain, but with time, the music became another language, one she used to express emotions she didn't know how to name. As Luiza grew into her teenage years, the silence about her past became heavier. She noticed Anna pause whenever someone mentioned the market. She caught Miguel looking away when adoption stories appeared on television. They never hid the truth. She knew she was adopted, knew she had been left as a baby, but no one had answers beyond that single word written on the crumpled paper: perdão. At 16, one argument with Anna ended with Luiza shouting, "You don't understand. I don't know who I am." She slammed the door, leaving her mother in tears. Hours later, she returned, ashamed, hugging Anna tightly. "I didn't mean it," she whispered. But both knew the wound was real. Still, the years that followed brought joy too. Luiza finished school, earned a scholarship to study music at a local university, and played violin in community concerts. Miguel clapped the loudest at every performance, and Anna cried silently during the softer songs. By the time Luiza turned 25, she was a woman who carried both strength and unanswered questions. She had her own small apartment now, with shelves full of books and sheet music. Yet she still visited Anna and Miguel every Sunday for lunch. Life had given her love, stability, and dreams to chase. But the mystery of her origin never stopped whispering in quiet moments, like a song unfinished. It was on an ordinary afternoon, while she sat at a cafe near the market where her story had begun, that everything changed. She felt a gaze on her, the weight of someone staring too intently. When she looked up, an older man with graying hair was frozen mid-step, coffee cup trembling in his hand. His lips parted, and his voice cracked as he whispered words she would never forget. "Those eyes. I know those eyes." The room seemed to fall silent, her heartbeat pounding louder than the clatter of dishes or the hum of conversation. Questions surged. Who was he? How could he know? And what truth lay hidden in the reflection of her own gaze? The man's stare was unshakable, as if he had just seen a ghost. Luiza shifted uncomfortably in her chair, her coffee cooling untouched. She wanted to look away, but something in his trembling expression held her still. Finally he approached, his steps uneven, as if pulled forward by a force stronger than his will. "Forgive me," he said, voice low, almost breaking. "I didn't mean to frighten you, it's just your eyes." Luiza frowned. "My eyes?" He nodded, tears forming quickly. "They are exactly like hers." Her chest tightened. "Like whose?" The man hesitated, struggling to steady his breathing. "My sister's. She disappeared 25 years ago. She had a baby." His voice cracked and he covered his face with his hands. "We never knew what happened." Luiza froze, the words striking her like thunder. A baby. 25 years ago. She thought of the crumpled note with a single word. Perdão. Could it be? Or was this man chasing ghosts of his own? She forced herself to speak. "Are you saying that I—" He looked at her again, his gaze pleading. "Please, let me explain." They sat at her table. The cafe around them blurred into background noise, voices and music distant. He introduced himself as Paulo, a carpenter from a nearby town. His sister, Helena, had given birth young at 17, and the family had been torn apart by the scandal. Helena had vanished one morning with her baby, leaving no trace. For years they searched, asked questions, followed rumors, but nothing. She was never the same after, Paulo said, hands trembling. She carried guilt, shame, but also A deep love. She told me once, before she disappeared for good, that if anything ever happened, I'd know it by the child's eyes. He pointed gently toward Luiza, his voice dropping. Those eyes are hers, there's no doubt. Luiza's thoughts spun. She wanted to dismiss him, to walk away. But curiosity burned, tangled with fear. Could this be the missing piece of her story? That night, she told Ana and Miguel everything. At the dinner table, forks paused midair, silence stretching between them. Ana's hands shook as she set her glass down. Miguel's eyes darkened with worry. You don't know if he's telling the truth, Ana said softly. I know, Luiza admitted. But what if he is? I've wondered my whole life. And now maybe, I finally have a path. Miguel leaned forward, voice heavy. And what if following it hurts you? We've seen this before. People clinging to hope, only to be broken. We don't want that for you. Luiza reached for their hands. I'll never stop loving you. You're my parents. But I need to know. Don't you understand? Ana's eyes filled with tears. She nodded reluctantly. Then we'll stand with you, no matter what. The days that followed were a storm of emotion. Paulo introduced her to faded photographs, his sister Helena, a striking young woman with the same rare eyes. The resemblance was undeniable. He spoke of their childhood, of secrets whispered in the dark, of a family scarred by judgment and silence. But every answer only raised more questions. Why had Helena abandoned her baby? Where was she now? And why had no one come forward when the story of a menina de feira spread across town all those years ago? One evening, as Luiza studied a photo of Helena holding a newborn wrapped in a floral cloth, the same cloth she had been found in, her hands trembled. The evidence was piling up, too heavy to ignore. Yet doubts lingered, sharp as broken glass. Could she truly be Helena's daughter? Or was she clinging to a story shaped by coincidence and desperate hope? And if it was true, what would happen when she finally found the woman who had left her behind? Luiza's search became relentless. Paulo guided her through fragments of memory and half-forgotten stories. Together they knocked on doors, visited dusty archives in municipal buildings, and questioned relatives who had long buried the past. Each step brought them closer, and yet the truth still felt just beyond reach. One afternoon, Paulo placed an old envelope on the table in front of her. Inside were letters Helena had written but never sent. The paper was yellowed, the ink faded. Luiza's fingers trembled as she unfolded the first sheet. My daughter, the letter began. I think of you every day. Forgive me for the pain I caused. Forgive me for the silence. I believed I was saving you from the same chains that trapped me. Tears blurred Luiza's vision. For the first time she saw her birth mother's words, not rumors, not speculation. Helena herself. It was both comforting and cruel. Comforting because it proved love had existed. Cruel because that love had not been enough to keep them together. Where is she now? Luiza whispered. Paulo hesitated. We don't know. After she left those letters with me, she vanished again. Some say she moved to Recife. Others think she went farther north. We never had certainty. The uncertainty weighed heavily. Luiza juggled rehearsals, teaching violin lessons, and nights spent staring at her phone, scrolling through lists of names, searching for Helena. Each clue led to another dead end, and yet she couldn't stop. Ana and Miguel watched with quiet worry. At Sunday lunches, Ana placed more food on Luiza's plate than usual, as if nourishment could shield her from heartbreak. Miguel kept fixing small things in her apartment, wobbly chairs, squeaky hinges, anything to stay close. One evening, Ana finally spoke the fear that had been festering. What if you find her, and she doesn't want to be found? Luiza looked at her mother, pain flashing in her hazel eyes. Then at least I'll know. I've lived 25 years in the dark. I'd rather face rejection than never know the truth. Weeks later, Paulo called her with urgency in his voice. Luiza, I think I found something. A woman in Recife who matches her description. Same rare eyes. She lives near Boa Viagem. Luiza's heart pounded as they drove to the city, the coastline unfolding with endless waves. Recife felt bigger, louder, more chaotic than Caruaru. Every passerby with hazel eyes made her pulse quicken. They stopped in front of a modest building. Paolo pointed toward the second-floor balcony, where a woman in her 40s leaned over the railing, watering plants. Even from below, Luiza could see the eyes, green touched with gold, mirrors of her own. Her legs weakened. "That's her," she whispered. But courage failed her. She couldn't climb the stairs, couldn't knock on the door. Instead, she stood frozen, watching the woman hum softly to herself, unaware of the daughter staring up at her. Paolo placed a hand on Luiza's shoulder. "Take your time. This moment belongs to you." That night, Luiza returned to Karuaru with her heart in pieces. She had seen Helena, alive, real, within reach, but she hadn't spoken a word. Fear of rejection, fear of opening a wound too deep, had silenced her. Lying awake, she clutched the letters to her chest. The questions screamed louder than ever. Why had Helena left her? Why had she stayed silent for so long? And most of all, was she ready to hear the answer, whatever it might be? The path toward the truth was no longer about finding her mother. It was about finding the courage to face her. The next Sunday morning, Luiza stood in front of her mirror, rehearsing words she didn't know how to say. "I'm your daughter." The phrase felt too heavy, too fragile. What if Helena turned her away? What if all she found was silence? Yet the thought of living without answers was heavier still. With Paolo by her side, she returned to Recife. The sea air carried the smell of salt and grilled corn from the beach stalls. Each step toward Helena's building felt like walking into the unknown. Luiza's violin case hung at her side, not because she planned to play, but because music had always been her shield. At the door, her hand shook as she pressed the bell. Footsteps. Then, the door opened. Helena stood there, older now, with lines etched by time and sorrow. But her eyes, those unmistakable hazel-green eyes, were Luiza's reflection. For a moment, neither spoke. Finally, Helena's hand flew to her mouth. Meu Deus. Her knees buckled, and she gripped the doorframe. "It's you." Luiza's voice cracked. "Why? Why did you leave me?" Tears streamed down Helena's face. "I was a child myself, 17, alone. My family wanted me to hide you, to give you away. I thought leaving you in the market was giving you a chance for someone better than me to save you." Her words tumbled out, raw and broken. "I loved you so much it terrified me. I thought love wasn't enough." Luiza's chest ached. Anger and compassion warred inside her. "All I ever wanted was the truth." Helena reached for her hands. "I never stopped thinking of you. I wrote letters, but I never had the courage to send them. Every birthday I cried. Every time I saw a little girl with eyes like yours, I wondered if it was you." The silence that followed was unbearable, heavy with 25 years of loss. Then Paolo spoke gently. "Sister, it's not too late. Look at her. She's here." For the first time, Luiza saw not just the woman who had abandoned her, but a human being crushed by mistakes, regret, and love left unspoken. Slowly, she placed her violin case on the floor, opened it, and raised the instrument to her chin. Without a word, she played, the melody soft, trembling, but filled with everything she couldn't yet say. The notes carried forgiveness, sorrow, longing. Neighbors paused outside, listening to music that seemed to heal the air itself. When the last note faded, Helena's sobs broke into quiet laughter. "That's your voice, Filha. That's how I know you are mine." Luiza lowered the violin and, with shaking arms, stepped into her mother's embrace. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. But it was real. In the weeks that followed, they began to piece together a fragile new bond. There were awkward silences, painful memories, and long talks that stretched into the night. But there were also small joys, shared meals, laughter at forgotten stories, the discovery that both loved music. Ana and Miguel were invited to meet Helena. The meeting was tense at first, full of unspoken fears. But when Helena clasped Ana's hands and whispered, "Thank you for raising her when I couldn't," Ana's eyes filled with tears. In that moment, rivalry dissolved into gratitude. Luiza realized then what she had always known deep down. Family is not built only by blood nor broken by absence. It is created every day, through love, forgiveness, and the courage to begin again. Looking into the eyes that once abandoned her, and into the eyes that had always protected her, Luiza finally understood. She was not defined by loss, but by the love that had carried her through it. And perhaps, she thought, that was what the single word on that note, pardon, had always meant. If this story moved you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Would you have forgiven Helena if you were in Luiza's place? Your support helps us bring more emotional adoption stories to life. Stories about family, love, and second chances.